Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review of the G-Form Pro S and Pro S Elite shin guards. Now this is an all-in-one shin guard concept where the sleeve is directly attached to the shin guard shell itself. We're going to be going over everything you could possibly want to know about this shin guard as far as my experiences go. We're going to talk about the fit, we're going to talk about the feel, and of course the overall protective features that this shin guard has to offer. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, and with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at the packaging as well as talk about some key things to note regarding the G-Form shin guards. So here is the packaging. You can see I have the Pro S box here and the Pro S Elite box here. They're pictured right there on the front. The boxes open up like a book with the shin guards exposed there on the inside. You have some tech specs there as well explaining the actual protection technology, which we're going to talk about later in the video. More tech specs are listed on the back, as you guys can see, both boxes are pretty much the same. They both open up, both have the tech specs on the back, and it's just a cool little way to actually deliver the shin guards. Now, the shin guards themselves are made in the USA, which is really nice and does help to justify the higher price tag of these guys. The Pro S model retails for $80 US, whereas the Pro S Elite model retails for $10 more at $90 US. So they are relatively pricey, but made in the USA, you don't see that very often. They are also fully machine washable. So if you like to keep your things clean, don't want them to smell in any way at all, they're just very easy to clean because you throw them in the washing machine and forget about them, which is really, really nice. Also, one thing that I know a lot of people are concerned with when buying a brand new pair of shin guards is the NOC SAE certification. You can see this is their logo right here. And what it says with the G-Form Pro S model, the yellow ones here, is that the manufacturer certifies that this shin guard meets the NOC SAE standard. Now what that means is that it's not NOC SAE approved, but they've taken the test and it does actually meet the requirements. The reason why it's not approved is because G-Form hasn't actually paid these guys to have their stamp printed on the shin guard. So like I said, while it does meet their safety requirements, it technically is not approved. So if you're one of those people that plays in a league where it's really important to have this stamp on your shin guards, just know that these meet the requirements, but don't actually have the stamp on the shin guard in any way at all. Also, with the Pro S Elite model, these technically don't meet their safety certification standards, so that is something to keep in mind as well if you were planning on buying either the Pro S or the Pro S Elite shin guards that do not have that approval, but that does not mean that they're unsafe. Alright, so here's a look at the G-Form shin guards themselves. We have the Pro S model here in yellow and the Pro S Elite model here in black. And before we get into my thoughts on the overall performance and just my overall experience with the G-Form shin guards, I want to talk about my prior experience with an all-in-one type product like these right here. Now, going back to 2007, 2008, I want to say I was 14, 15 years old. I probably should do the math, but I'm not going to. I had a pair of Adidas F50 Tune-It all-in-one shin guards. It had a sleeve with the built-in shin guard on the front, similar to these, but at the same time very different. And it was just a very negative experience. The sleeve itself was extremely difficult to put on, even more difficult to take off because once it actually got wet from you sweating, it just stuck to the skin of your leg, which was, like I said, just a very negative experience overall. And as sticky as it was to take off, they didn't seem to stay up very well for whatever reason. Can't explain that one to you. And the actual shin guard that was built in on the front was relatively small and also didn't provide very good protection. So all in all, one of the worst shin guards that I actually ever wore, and they were priced very similarly to the G-Forms here, around $100 or so. So again, just a very negative experience, and it made me skeptical going into my review of the G-Form Pro S and Pro S Elite. But after wearing these things, I can tell you that my experience was so much better. It's a much better product than that all-in-one from Adidas that I wore years ago. And it's just a really convenient product, I guess is the best way to put it. For somebody who doesn't necessarily like ankle guards, because this does not have any ankle protection, as you guys can see. Doesn't like to use tape. It just wants something that they can very easily slide on or off and go about their day. It's just a really, really convenient product. No tape required. They stay up extremely well. They're lightweight. They're relatively protective. Certainly not the most protective shin guard I've come across, but just a really convenient product overall that I'm personally a big fan of. And because of their convenience, I definitely will be coming back to. So let's explain the concept a little bit and actually compare the Pro S and Pro S Elite models as we go through all of the details. So with the Pro S model, the sleeve itself features a stretchy kind of neoprene material, really nice thick actual material here going directly across the back, as you guys can see. And then you're going to find a thinner stretchy mesh material on either side, as well as across the front face of the sleeve itself. Now this mesh material is much lower quality, if you ask me, in comparison to this nice thick solid material here on the back. Of course, it will be a little bit more breathable, but in the long run, especially as far as durability and longevity is concerned, I just don't find it quite as nice. Whereas with the Pro S Elite model, you can see the sleeve is entirely made from that nicer material that I talked about. So that is going to be one of the major differences coming from the Pro S to the Pro S Elite for your extra $10. It does have a nice kind of elasticated band here at the top and bottom. So again, durability is not a concern. I did not come across any issues, and they are safe to put in the washing machine, which is really, really nice. So you can keep them clean and wash them pretty much after every time that you use them if you want to do it that often. So moving on to the actual shin guards themselves, that is one of the more unique elements of this particular guard. There's no plastic to the shell whatsoever, so it's technically not a shell. It covers the front of your shin, as you guys can see, and does have a fairly traditional shape. It does have pretty good coverage. You guys will see what these look like on my shins a little bit later in the video. And it's basically segmented pour-on foam. Now the segments, as you guys can see, are pretty straightforward. You have a bar down either side. You have one giant cushion here in the middle, and then two more cushions on the top and bottom of that central piece. So everything is very heavily segmented. You have little flex grooves in the actual pieces themselves. It's very soft, it's very flexible, and it essentially fits anybody's shin perfectly just because there's no actual structure to it. You're also going to find that there are little ventilation ports here just in between the actual cracks, and you're going to find that on both of them. Perhaps it's a little bit easier to see on the Pro S Elite model. So you are going to get some ventilation here because it isn't technically a solid shell. And because there is no plastic here, it doesn't have the same protective qualities as a more traditional shin guard. You definitely do get impact protection from this Pour-On XRD foam, where the concept is, and it is a very high quality foam, that when an impact comes on, it does actually compress, but it hardens. As you guys can see, it will compress. You can see my finger going right into it, but it only goes to a certain point until it stops. Now what this does is it does actually make for really, really good protection, but you still feel the brunt of that force that would normally be eliminated by a harder plastic shell on top of something like a pour-on foam. So if I were to improve this shin guard in any way, I would put some plastic caps maybe on top of these little segmented pieces here, just to help with that kind of initial brute force that you do feel from when you do take an impact to the shin. But as far as actual protection is concerned, it definitely is there. You just feel some of that impact, where with a plastic shell shin guard, you might not feel quite as much of it, if that makes any sense. Now, the other major difference between the Pro S and Pro S Elite as far as the actual shin guards themselves are concerned is the pour-on foam padding. Obviously, aside from being yellow on the Pro S and black on the Pro S Elite, the Pro S Elite is actually a little bit thinner. So I'm just going to show you guys the side profile right here when they're up against each other. Hopefully the camera will focus for me. Sometimes it just takes a second. And there it goes. So you can see that the yellow model, or the Pro S, is what I would say is about 30% thicker than what you're going to find with the Pro S Elite. So the S Elite model is just ever so slightly thinner, so you're technically getting a less protective shin guard here, but a slightly better sleeve. So that is kind of the trade-off. It's not a huge amount of thickness. It's not something that I personally found to be very noticeable while you're actually wearing them, but it is something to keep in mind. So the Pro S model is technically going to be a little bit more protective with a lower quality sleeve, in my opinion, whereas the Pro S Elite is going to be a little bit less protective with a better quality sleeve. So again, it's kind of up to you as to which one is the better option. I honestly don't really have too much of a preference here. I guess if I had to pick one, I probably would end up going for the standard Pro S model, just because it does have that little bit of extra protection that I feel is necessary because there is no plastic shell. But again, it really is up to you and what you prefer as far as shin guards go, and what you like the look of, what you like the feel of. If you want something more low profile, the S Elite model definitely isn't a bad option either. In terms of weight, both the Pro S and Pro S Elite models feel pretty much weightless on your shins, and considering it's an all-in-one design, I expected these to be pretty lightweight from the get-go. But just for the sake of proof, I'm going to weigh these for you today in real time. Keep in mind that these are both the size large. So we'll start off with the Pro S model. It does have the slightly thicker padding, and you can see that on the scale. They weigh in at 2.25 ounces or 2.3 ounces, just to keep things simple. Extremely lightweight, especially when you have all that weight distributed across the entire unit as a whole, the sleeve as well as the actual shin guard. So we'll take that off the scale and we'll throw on the Pro S Elite model, and you can see that they weigh in at 2.2 ounces. So 2.25 ounces. Pretty much the exact same weight as the Pro S model is what I'm getting at here. There's really no difference in weight. They're both extremely lightweight, right around that 2 ounce mark, which is pretty much all you can ask for. And considering the amount of protection that you get at 2 ounces, it's actually pretty impressive. So if a lightweight shin guard is what you're looking for, the G-Form Pro S and Pro S Elites definitely deliver. Alright, so here's a look at how the shin guards themselves fit. On my right leg, I have the Pro S model in yellow, and on my left leg, I have the Pro S Elite model in black. Hopefully you guys can see the color through the actual white socks. And as you guys can tell, they fit extremely well. Because the shin guard is made from a pour-on foam that is very heavily segmented, it forms the exact shape of your shin. No matter how wide, how narrow, whatever shape your shins are, these fit you just about perfectly. It has that nice compressed tight fit that goes along with the actual shin guard sleeves. Speaking of the sleeves, while they're both made from different materials, they both fit equally as well. No real complaints there whatsoever. They're nice and snug, but still easy to put on and take off after the fact. And most importantly, they stay in place really nicely. I never felt the need to use tape or anything like that. I never found issues with the shin guards falling down or sliding around on my shin. So again, just really, really low maintenance. You just slide them on and you're pretty much good to go. You put your socks on top. You technically don't need to put your socks on top if you don't want to. And again, they're just really, really convenient and definitely do the job as far as having no ankle protection but staying in place really nicely without any added accessories or of course tape, which can just be a real pain. Again, as far as protection is concerned, they aren't the greatest because of the lack of plastic shell, but there definitely is still some pretty decent protection there, especially in comparison to a lot of lower end shin guards. And the coverage you get is actually really nice as well. They're a decent size and it spans pretty much the entire front of your shin, which is all you could possibly want. As you guys can see, the yellow version of the Pro S model is ever so slightly thicker. It's not super noticeable while they're actually on your shins, and unless you have them side by side, you're probably not going to notice much of a difference either. But definitely is something worth noting. The Pro S Elite model is a little bit more low profile, and as far as sizing is concerned, they are available in small to extra large, I believe. I'm wearing a size large. I'm 5'11", about 175 pounds or so, and large fits me perfectly. There is a size chart on their website for those that are interested that tells you what size you need based on your height as well as your weight. So go ahead and check that out if you are interested in a pair and you want to know what size you need. So that's pretty much it as far as how these things fit, and move on now to my final thoughts. Alright guys, that's it for my review of the G-Form shin guards. The appeal here is definitely the all-in-one design, and convenience is the key word. Is this the best shin guard I've ever worn? Absolutely not. Is it the most protective? Absolutely not. But the protection that you do get definitely gets a pass in my opinion. They're extremely comfortable because of the overall design. They'll fit absolutely anybody very, very comfortably. And most importantly, for me at least, they are extremely low maintenance. You put them on and you're good to go. No tape required. They stay in place. You can throw them in the washing machine. And again, it's just a very, very convenient product if you can justify the price and with what they have to offer appeals to you personally. So if you guys are interested in some of these for yourself, either the S Pro or the Pro S or the Pro S Elite models, check out their website. There'll be a link to it down below in the description if you want to go ahead and check it out. Again, $80 for the Pro S and $90 for the Pro S Elite, so they are a little bit pricey, but nonetheless, go ahead and check them out if you're interested in a pair for yourself. Other than that though, guys, hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. If you guys have any questions or suggestions, leave those down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.